Help, help, I can't flirt for the life of me. I couldn't flirt to save my life. If that's you, raise your hand, then this video is for you. I used to be in that very same position. But here's a framework for how to think about flirting from the future on. Most guys are very confused about what flirting is. And there's a lot of murkiness. It just messes the hell up out of people, right? We need to get an understanding. First, what is flirting? When we talk about flirting, most people or most guys would relate it to two things, I think, off the top of the head. One is just telling a girl that you like her. Just telling her somehow, some way, some statement that shows that you like her, that you're into her. Now, while this plays a part of flirting, it's only a part, and it doesn't always have to be a part. So this is a very crucial, key element to remember. Telling a girl you like her is not flirting. It might be partially flirting, part of the equation, but it is not flirting. And in some cases, it's not part of it at all. There's special types that do not work with you telling her that you like her. Other guys think of flirting as a vibe, as an energy, the energy behind what you're saying, the question you're asking. And while this is true, it's still only partially correct. It's still half, right? What flirting is, on a very technical level, it's going to sound mathematical, but it's actually not. Compliment plus a tease. Compliment plus a tease. That's all it is. That's all it is. That's it. You can also tease and just count that as a flirt. This is called cocky funny, right? Cocky funny is not necessarily you complimenting the girl. It's you making a, I don't want to say arrogant, but it's a humorously arrogant statement, quote unquote. That's kind of just a tease. It's kind of just a poke, kind of just a jab. Fun, playful, lighthearted. That works in the same vein, right? So flirting, in essence, is compliment plus a tease. When you have both of those elements, you are flirting. So you are not giving full acceptance, but it is not an outright rejection either. You're not welcoming her fully in, but you're not kicking her fully out. You're melding both of those worlds into something that's alluring. But she doesn't necessarily know where it's going to end up, right? And girls are the masters of doing this. How many times have you been out and you run into a girl and she says, "Oh, you're cute. Where are you from?" And then you tell her, and then she's like, "Oh, not guys from XYZ." And then you try to go back and correct her, and then she, gives you another little pat on the back, and then she, finds fault with another thing, right? She's playing around, she's playing the role, she's in it, she's immersed in it. But it's It's a tentative acceptance, tentative rejection. It's always it's a little bit of both all the time. Let's look at some examples of flirts that we can use that just serve as a baseline, as a guideline for lines that we can come up with. I think that it's very important to focus on the three parts. Obviously, the line that you have to say, the line that you come up with for certain specific situations and scenarios that keep coming up. So as you approach, as you go do your thing, obviously you're going to run into the same essence of the scenarios after you start getting into a conversation. You're going to realize you hit certain points all the time, right? I end up in this spot. I end up in that spot after I say what I say initially, or we end up in this type of conversation, right? You get the patterns and the routines that just come up naturally that happen. Once you see that there is an opening for a flirty line, now you have to come up with, craft a line to use in the place of that, right? So you're scanning all your interactions, which you should be paying attention to anyways. You should be scanning your interactions, looking for places where you can slot lines into that are flirty, that will beef the interaction up, right? Once you find those spaces, be it through, if you write field reports, you do that. If you record yourself, you do that. Now you come up with a line, right? You come up with the exact line to use. So let's say you run into girls who are lawyers all the time, right? And you realize this line is a nice little fun poke. You know what I love about lawyers, honestly? Yes, what? Nothing. You guys are a pain in the ass to deal with. But I like that. Lawyers are so brainy and analytical. Sometimes that's kind of sexy. But then again, since the last lawyer I dated, that's it. I'm not going back to you guys. You guys are a little depressing. It's too much to bear, Life's already depressing enough. Something like that, right? Let's say a line like that. Or you just made the cutest, weirdest expression I've ever seen, right? The compliment and the tease there, right? Something of that nature. Either of those lines, something around that. You want to create them for those specific situations that you keep coming up to. So if you recognize that when you are let's just say you're getting ready to exchange contact and you realize there's a little space there, that always happens. I can inject something in there to make it more strong, right? To make the interaction much better. Then you put you add it in there. You add it there. Obviously, we have to mention that, just like anything, just like riding a bike, just like starting to approach, just anywhere along the way, you're going to have fear that comes up around using the lines that you create. It's natural, it's normal. It means you are pushing your comfort zone. It's a good thing. You want to hold to it, right? You want to lean ever so slightly into your fears, right? As David Data says in Way of Superior Man, you want to live with your lips slightly pressed against your fear, not overdoing it and not pulling back, right? That means you want to step into that. You want to be afraid and do it anyways. The third part to the flirting equation is kind of the vibe and the energy behind it, really bringing that energy. So the situation, the line itself, and the energy behind it. But the energy behind it only comes after you get the first two down. Once you get the first two, then as you start to use it, as you start to use the line, as you start to get familiar with it, as you start to see the reactions, maybe you tweak it and adjust it, because everything is about tweaking and adjusting to your grand ideal of how it should work, right? How it should hit. Once you get the reaction you want, now you learn the line. It becomes a part of you. And that's when you had that punch behind it, that feel behind it, right? It's not just something you're saying and trying out, right? It's not you're just testing it and seeing what it does, kind of like sticking sticking your finger in a pot of water just to test how hot it is, like, and stick it in and pull it back. You're actually, well, I know what this is going to be. Boom, I drop it. Bam, it adds that energy, that juice to the interaction because you're used to it. You run it a lot. So obviously when you come up with your material, you have to run it a lot. You have to be willing to use it, to sit with it, to let it marinate. And that's going to make it much more intriguing, right? You're going to be able to bring that energy with it. So for recap, right? There's 3 parts to the process. One is looking through your interactions, finding the scenario where you can add a nice flirty line in. And flirting is compliment plus tease, remember? You coming up with the line, sitting down, crafting it, thinking about it, and going out and testing it until you get the reactions you like, right? And later on, after you're done tweaking and testing and seeing how it lands, and you get used to repeating it over and over and over again, it's been refined. Now you have that vibe, you have that energy to where it lands. It's like good material, right? I do battle rap. There's nothing like running your material so much that it really hits, it really punches, right? And I can put my whole performance in, my whole soul, my energy. Bam, right? And the crowd feels it. Same thing with comics, same thing with dancers who run their routines over and over again. At first, it's kind of shaky, but they really get into it. And it slams, right? And the audience overall feels it. And the girl will feel that, right? She will feel the funness. I don't know if funness is a word, but she will feel the fun energy, the radiance that comes behind you being familiar with it, right? Not being stifled about it, right? You move from testing to actually it's solid with you. It sits in here, right? So come up with lines, look through your interactions, see for spaces where you could add flirty lines. Come up with lines to use, test them over and over and again, tweak them as needed to make it just right, just what you would say, just the perfect sentence expression that you would say. Keep repeating it until you add the energy, and you should essentially be doing that throughout your interaction. You go back and you see another space, you see a hole where it could be filled, you add something there. You add something here, you add something there, right? And that's how you fill your game out and become much better than just about anybody. So do that homework. By the way, I do have a flirt guide full of different examples of flirts. If you want to check that out, it's completely free. Post in the comments flirt guide, and I'll get it right to you. So you can look at it, do the homework, use it as kind of a workbook to get your mind oriented around that. Keep in mind that every compliment feeds into a tease, and every tease feeds into a compliment. It's kind of like the yin yang symbol. I've heard it described, and I like the analogy of it, right? One rolls into the next, which rolls into the other, which rolls into the next, right? They kind of feed into each other. They group together. They work together in harmony, right? In synchrony. So, just to recap, flirting is compliment plus a tease. You mix both of those parts together. There are three ways to enhance your flirting. One, you look over your interactions at points where you could insert a flirty line in, right? You look over everything you do, you take note of it. I can put one in here, 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 wherever it is. Two is you come up with the line. You use the examples, I gave two examples in my flirt guide, which you can comment for flirt guide. I'll send you that. I have a bunch more examples for you to use as templates, baselines that you can work off of and use and to create your own material. And third is you repeat it so much, you use it so much, you tweak it so much, it becomes a part of you until the vibe, the energy rolls off of what you say, and it really has that power behind it. So, download the Flirt Guide, do your homework, get out there, use it, tell me how it works.